They thought kicking down a disabled girl at the school gate would make them look powerful too bad. They picked the one girl trained to dismantle grown men in international MMA rings. In front of dozens of students, their easy target rose with the calm of someone who's ended fights on global stages. And the bullies had no idea the countdown to their humiliation had already started. Every shove, every laugh, every cruel misstep dragged them closer to the moment she stopped surviving and started responding. The final bell at Bellington High had barely finished echoing when the school gates erupted into their usual storm of backpacks, laughter, and slammed locker doors. But beneath the noisy rush of teenagers pouring out into the sunlit courtyard, something quieter, smaller, and far more vulnerable moved steadily toward the exit. Amina Carter, her wheelchair rolled slowly over the uneven pavement, each bump a tiny jolt sent up her spine, but her expression remained calm, almost serene. She maneuvered the wheels with practiced precision, her left hand working slightly harder than her right. The sun caught the metallic edge of her left leg, the prosthetic glinting beneath her jeans as she navigated through the crowd. Most students ignored her. A few stared, but only one group paused, and paused for the wrong reason. Chad Riker, captain of the varsity Bulls, stood leaning against the brick wall of the school gate like he owned the entire district. His Letterman jacket, orange and white, patched with unnecessary pride, hung loosely on his shoulders. Logan Pierce was beside him, chewing gum like it was a personal insult to the world. Gavin Holt was fiddling with his phone, already preparing it for trouble. Drew Maddox hovered behind them, the kind of large-framed boy who acted confident only when surrounded by wolves. The wolves noticed Amina before she noticed them. "Yo, what do we have here?" Chad muttered, pushing off the wall. Logan let out a low whistle. "No way, she's actually trying to go down that ramp? With that thing?" Gavin grinned. "Hold up, this is content. Real content." His thumb tapped his phone screen. Camera on. Amina didn't look up. She simply focused on the ground, her wheels struggling slightly as she reached the most uneven part of the walkway near the gate. One wrong angle and anyone could tip over, especially someone in her condition. But Chad stepped right in front of her, blocking the path entirely. She braked instantly, her hands tightening on the wheels. For a brief moment, their eyes met his full of arrogant amusement, hers steady and unreadable. Well, Chad said, leaning forward as if examining a strange creature. "Trying to escape school early, with discount robot parts?" Logan snorted loudly, elbowing Gavin. "Get this on camera, dude. People love inspirational fails." Gavin already had the phone lifted. "Oh, trust me, I'm rolling." Ellie Nguyen, a quiet sophomore walking several steps behind Amina, froze when she saw the scene. Her eyes widened not with fear, but with a sickening sense of recognition. She had seen Chad and his group do this before, but today felt different. Today felt worse. Amina tried to maneuver around Chad. He stepped to the side. She wheeled the other direction. He blocked again, smirking as if her mobility were a joke for his entertainment. "Move," she said quietly. Her voice wasn't trembling. It should have, but it wasn't. That only annoyed Chad more. "Oh, come on," he taunted, stepping closer. "Say please. Or better yet, crawl." Before Ellie could shout or run for a teacher, Chad lifted his right foot and kicked hard at Amina's right wheel. The wheelchair jerked violently to the side. Amina's body lurched with it. But what happened next made Ellie's breath catch. Instead of tipping over, instead of flailing helplessly like the bullies expected, Amina threw her left arm out, palm hitting the pavement at the perfect angle. Her entire body balanced on that single arm for a split second, long enough for her to force the wheelchair back upright. It was smooth, controlled, too controlled. Ellie whispered, "That's impossible." Chad stepped back, stunned. "What the how'd you do that?" Gavin zoomed in with the camera. "Dude, that was freaky. Replay-worthy freaky." Drew frowned. He wasn't the smartest, but he noticed something. Amina's left leg hadn't moved, not at all. Her jeans had lifted slightly from the sudden motion, revealing the sleek metallic frame underneath. His eyes widened. "Bro, is that a fake leg?" Chad looked down, saw the prosthetic, and his grin stretched wider than it ever should have. "Oh, my God," Chad clapped. "She's disabled. Disabled." Logan burst out laughing. "This is gold. Actual gold." Ellie felt her stomach twist. Not because they noticed the prosthetic, but because of the look in their eyes. The kind of look predators get when they spot an animal with an injured limb. Amina didn't flinch. She didn't hide her leg. She simply sat straighter in her wheelchair, her face calm, unreadable, almost eerily composed. But Chad misread her silence as fear. "Yo!" he shouted to the boys. "Get over here! Look at this recycling project rolling through our gate." Gavin kept filming. Logan circled behind Amina. Drew crossed his arms like he was preparing for something bigger. The courtyard buzzed with noise, but a subtle tension tightened around the group. Amina felt it. Ellie felt it. The bullies felt it too, though for them, that tension translated into excitement. Chad leaned close to Amina's ear and whispered loudly enough for the camera to catch. "Look at this! This piece of trash even dares to come to school." Logan barked a laugh. Ellie almost stepped forward, but fear glued her feet in place. This wasn't just bullying. This was cruelty sharpening itself in real time. And the girl in the wheelchair? She wasn't reacting the way they expected. Amina slowly turned her head. She looked directly into Gavin's camera, directly into the eye of the storm they were trying to manufacture. No trembling lip, no tear, no panic. Just a stillness so unnatural that even Gavin lowered the phone half an inch. Her gaze was steady, controlled, calculated, too calm to belong to a victim, too calm to belong to someone powerless, too calm to be safe to mess with. That look didn't say, "I'm scared." It said, "You have no idea what you just started." But the boys didn't understand that yet. They would, sooner than any of them imagined. Amina's eyes never left the camera, not even when Chad decided one kick wasn't enough. The farther Amina rolled from the busy courtyard, the quieter the world became. The noise of students faded into the distance, replaced by the hollow scrape of her wheels against the uneven concrete. The sidewalk beside the school gate was a blind spot. No teachers, no cameras, no passing students. Exactly the kind of place predators preferred. Chad knew that. So did his pack. Logan nudged Drew with his elbow. "Go on. Do something good for the camera." Drew smirked. He had always been the muscle, rarely the brains, but today he felt like performing. He cracked his knuckles as if preparing for a football tackle, though the only target he had was a girl in a wheelchair, simply trying to get home. Amina sensed movement behind her. She didn't look back. Her hands tightened on the wheels, ready to propel forward if she needed to. But she was a second too late. Drew stepped into her path and lifted his knee. Then, thud, his knee slammed into the front wheel of her chair with brutal force. The wheelchair jerked violently. Amina's entire body lurched forward, the impact sending her flying off the ramp as if gravity had suddenly doubled in strength. Her backpack slipped from the hooks. Her notebook spiraled through the air. Pens exploded across the pavement like shattered glass. Gavin was ecstatic. "Oh yeah!" he shouted, filming every frame. "This clip is going viral. 1 million views, easy." The words echoed across the cold concrete. Amina's body kept traveling forward, fast, helpless to the untrained eye. Her wheelchair tipped, scraping loudly against the ground. Her palms scraped the air as she fell. But then, something unexpected happened. Something wrong. Something impossible. Right as her body crossed the tipping point, Amina twisted mid-air, rotating sharply with the kind of clean precision that only came from repetition, endless, disciplined repetition. Her left hand shot outward. Her prosthetic leg angled perfectly. Her torso folded just enough to redirect momentum. She wasn't falling. Not anymore. She was adjusting. Her body turned 180 degrees before gravity could claim her. She extended her arm in a controlled arc, palm flattening toward the ground like a practiced anchor. Smack. Her hand met the pavement with flawless timing. absorbing the force in a single, stunning movement. She shifted into a stable hold, knees bent, prosthetic angled, core engaged in MMA ground control stance, modified instinctively for a wheelchair fall. It was clean. It was precise. It was professional. For 2 full seconds, nobody breathed. Drew froze, mid-laugh, mouth open. Logan's gum nearly fell out of his mouth. Gavin lowered the camera to make sure his eyes weren't lying. Chad blinked hard, as if the scene needed to reload. Amina remained in that perfect grounded position, one hand firm on the pavement, the other bracing her overturned wheelchair. Her backpack lay torn beside her, but her posture screamed something the boys had not expected. Strength, control, training, real training. Gavin finally exhaled. "What the, did she just?" Logan swallowed audibly. "Dude, nobody falls like that." For a moment, silence stretched thin, dangerously thin over the group, as if the air itself hesitated. But denial was easier than fear, so Chad forced out a loud, mocking laugh. "Ha! Look at her! She's posing for the ground now." The others joined him reluctantly, their laughter too sharp, too loud, too desperate. None of them wanted to admit what their instincts were shouting. That wasn't an ordinary reaction. That wasn't luck. That wasn't reflex. That was skill. And skill meant danger. Gavin recovered first, raising the camera again. "Nah, man, this is actually sick. Play it back. Play it back." He rewound the clip and held the screen toward Chad. Even on the tiny display, the movement was unmistakable. Amina, twisting mid-flight, adjusting her center of gravity, redirecting her momentum, and landing in what every trained fighter knew as a modified base position. Chad stared. His jaw tightened. "Bro," Gavin whispered, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. "She spun like a real fighter. Like an actual fighter." Drew leaned closer to the screen. "No way. That's some ninja stuff." Logan frowned. "But she's disabled. How can she?" The question hung in the air, unfinished. Amina slowly lifted her head. Her eyes locked onto the boys one by one, calm, deep, and strangely intimidating. No anger, no fear, just a silent promise. A promise none of them understood yet. She pushed herself upright, still balanced on one arm. With controlled strength, she reached for her wheelchair, gripping the sidebar. Her muscles flexed subtly beneath her jacket as she righted the chair in a smooth pivot. Still seated on the ground, she pulled herself back onto the cushion in a single efficient movement. No stumbling, no shaking. Just precision. Gavin didn't zoom in this time. He didn't dare. Chad stepped back half a pace, the first flicker of uncertainty flashing across his face. Ellie, watching from a distance, felt her heart pounding. "That wasn't normal," she whispered. "That was trained." But the boys weren't ready to acknowledge it. They needed the illusion of superiority. Without it, their world crumbled. So Chad barked, "Whatever. She just got lucky. Right, guys?" No one answered immediately. Finally, Drew forced a laugh. "Why, lucky." But none of them believed it. Amina dusted the dirt off her sleeves, her expression still unreadable. She adjusted the strap of her backpack, now torn, and slowly lifted her gaze to Gavin. His camera trembled. She said nothing. She didn't need to, because in that moment, even the bullies could feel it. The ground had shifted. The balance had changed. Something about her, something fundamental, did not fit the victim role they had assigned. Gavin tried to shake off the chill running up his spine. "Yo, Chad," he whispered. "Watch the footage again. She moved like she's done that fall 1,000 times." Chad scoffed, but his voice cracked. "No one in a wheelchair learns that crap." Gavin didn't blink, but she did. A cold breeze swept across the pavement, rustling the pages of Amina's scattered notebook. She picked one up slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled, like someone conserving energy for something far more important. Something inevitable. Something coming. She wasn't angry. She wasn't flustered. She wasn't scared. She was preparing, and they could feel it, even if they pretended not to. Gavin replayed the clip again, and this time, even he couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. Guys, seriously, watch how she spins. That's fighter stuff. Real fighter stuff. The grassy strip beside the stone benches of Bellington High was usually peaceful, a place where students sat to wait for rides or finish last-minute homework. Today, however, it felt like a stage deliberately cleared for violence. No teachers, no witnesses except one terrified girl standing far back. And the bullies. The bullies who didn't realize they were about to cross a line they could never return from. Amina had just settled back into her wheelchair after her controlled landing, her breaths calm and measured, when she felt something shift in the air behind her. A shadow loomed too close, too sudden. Logan Pierce, the gum-chewing hyena of the group, always eager to impress Chad, and always desperate to prove he wasn't the weakest link. He crept around the side of Amina's wheelchair, his movements twitchy and impatient, his eyes sharp with the thrill of cruelty. "Let's see how sturdy this thing really is," he murmured. Before Amina could reposition her wheels, Logan crouched low and shoved her shoulder with both hands, aiming to flip the entire chair backward onto the grass. It was not the harmless push of a bully wanting to scare someone. It was the deliberate, committed force of someone trying to injure her. Ellie, still watching from several yards away, gasped and covered her mouth. The world tilted, the wheelchair's back wheels lifted. Amina's upper body lurched violently toward the ground. Momentum should have taken her. Gravity should have finished what Logan started. But instead Amina moved. Not wildly, not desperately, perfectly. Her right hand shot to the pavement behind her. Her fingers spread wide, her wrist angled downward, her core tightened, and in one smooth, stunning motion, her entire body stabilized. She didn't fall. She didn't even wobble. She entered a grounded stance so flawless it looked choreographed, her palm absorbing the force, her shoulders rotating into alignment, her spine locking into a defensive anchor. It was base control, a foundational MMA stability move rarely taught outside serious fighting academies. Logan stumbled forward from the sudden resistance, shocked at meeting something unmoving, something solid where a helpless victim should have been. "What the? Why isn't she flipping?" he muttered. Amina kept her palm pressed to the ground, her eyes lowered, her breath steady. Her wheelchair hovered at a dangerous angle, but her body never trembled. Ellie's heart nearly stopped. She knew that hand placement. She knew that shoulder rotation. She had seen it before on videos her brother used to watch non-stop. Videos of young prodigies in World Youth MMA competitions. Ellie took a shaky step closer. "No," she whispered. "No way." Logan, confused and embarrassed, pushed harder. He wanted the chair to flip. He wanted to see her fall. He needed her to fall to save his pride. But Amina adjusted instantly, micro-movements, tiny shifts of pressure, rotations so fast the eye could barely track them. Every adjustment countered Logan's force perfectly. This wasn't survival. This was technique. Ellie's eyes widened as her brain finally recognized the exact motion. "The Carter switch," she whispered. She froze. Her breath caught. Her stomach dropped. "That's the Carter switch, a move designed for fighters with limited lower body mobility, a technique made famous by the youth MMA world circuit, a move invented, refined, and used by only one fighter at the Junior World Championship 3 years ago, Amina Carter. Ellie stared at the girl in the wheelchair, as if seeing her for the first time. "That's impossible," she whispered again. "But it's her." Meanwhile, Logan's breathing grew heavier and angrier. He pressed more weight onto Amina's shoulder, trying to force her back. Sweat gathered across his brow. He wasn't pushing a disabled girl anymore, he was pushing a trained fighter, and he didn't even realize it. Chad finally noticed Logan struggling. "Dude, what are you doing? Flip her already!" "I'm trying," Logan barked, his voice cracking. She's stuck." Amina did not speak. She did not react. She simply held the base control perfectly. Her fingers splayed, her palm grounded, her body engaged like a coiled spring waiting for release. Her silence was more terrifying than any scream could have been. Gavin edged closer, filming everything, but his hand wasn't steady anymore. For the first time, he felt a tremor, an instinctual understanding that something about this situation was no longer funny. "Bro!" Gavin whispered to Chad. I think she knows what she's doing." Chad rolled his eyes. "She's disabled. She doesn't know anything except how to sit." But his voice betrayed him. The crack in his confidence was thin but undeniable. Logan pushed again, furious, and this time Amina's shoulder absorbed the force so seamlessly that Logan almost fell over from his own momentum. How? How is she?" Logan stuttered. Amina slowly lifted her face. Her eyes met Logan's, not angry, not scared, just focused. Focused in a way fighters looked at opponents right before a match turned violent. A cold shiver ripped through Logan's spine. Ellie felt it too. Her entire body trembled as she whispered, "She's not defending anymore. She's transitioning." And Ellie was right. Something deep in Amina shifted, barely perceptible but unmistakable to someone who understood combat. Her breath slowed, her muscles aligned, her posture lowered its center of gravity. She was no longer bracing for impact. She was preparing for something else, something offensive, something dangerous. Amina removed her palm from the pavement with absolute control, returning the chair to a balanced position with a movement so fluid it looked unreal. She didn't glare, she didn't flinch, she didn't say a single word, but her silence spoke for her. "Push me again, and you will regret it." Chad's face flushed red, angry at her defiance, angry that she wasn't crying, wasn't begging, wasn't playing the victim role he wanted. "What is wrong with this girl?" he shouted. "She doesn't know how to be scared." He stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. "Fine. If you're so tough sitting down, let's see how tough you are on the ground." Logan backed away quickly, relieved to be out of arm's reach. Gavin raised the camera again despite the tremble in his wrist. Drew swallowed hard. Even he sensed they were approaching something they should never have provoked. Ellie clasped her hands tightly, eyes darting between Amina and the boys. "Please don't," she whispered, though no one heard her. Amina adjusted her grip on her wheels, her posture lowered slightly, her breathing steadied. She was preparing, not to flee, not to plead, but to fight. Amina said nothing, yet every muscle in her body shifted from defense to combat mode, and even the bullies felt the air sharpen around them. Furious that the crippled girl still wasn't scared, Chad stepped forward, ready to unleash his hardest attack yet. The open courtyard in front of Bellington High was suddenly too quiet. No cars pulling up, no students left wandering. Just the empty stretch of concrete, the wind brushing through the flags overhead, and the growing tension radiating from the pack of boys, tightening their circle around Amina. Chad Riker stepped forward, chest heaving, pride wounded deeper than he would ever admit. His earlier smirk had vanished, replaced by something far uglier rage that demanded a target. And Amina, sitting there in her wheelchair with that infuriatingly steady expression, had become the perfect outlet. "Move," Chad growled, not as a command, but as a threat. Amina didn't move, didn't look away, didn't even blink. That made Chad angrier. He lunged, his sneaker thick, heavy, worn from football practice, swung upward in a vicious arc, not toward her torso, not toward her arm, but toward her prosthetic leg. He aimed for the joint. He aimed to break it. Ellie, watching from a distance, gasped so loudly it echoed. No, but it happened too fast. Thud. Chad's foot slammed directly into the titanium joint of Amina's left leg. The impact sent a crack of sound ricocheting across the courtyard. Amina's entire body jolted violently. Her chair skidded backward several inches, wheels squealing against the cement. Pain shot through her like lightning. Amina screamed. A raw, involuntary sound ripped from her lungs, not the cry of someone weak, but the cry of someone whose nerves still remembered trauma, impact, force. Her hands slammed to the concrete, palms scraped, muscles tensed as she caught her balance. Her wheelchair tilted dangerously. Her spine twisted, her breath shattered into fragments. But she didn't fall. She didn't go down. She held herself up using both hands to stabilize exactly the way fighters brace after a leg sweep or a low kick. Her torso shook, but her grip remained unbroken. Chad froze for half a second, startled by the strength behind her posture. Drew blinked. Dude, she didn't flip. Logan swallowed. Why didn't it break? But Gavin, still filming, captured the moment in high resolution. Amina's prosthetic leg absorbing the full force of the kick, vibrating slightly but holding strong. Amina lifted her head slowly, wincing, forcing air into her lungs. Pain rippled through her entire body, but beneath the pain was something sharper, something awakening. Chad stepped back, shaking his foot. "Ow, shit!" he snarled. "What the hell is that thing made of?" He reached down, gripping his shoe, almost limping as he inspected it. "Why is it so damn hard?" Amina breathed heavily, her voice thin but steady. "It's titanium." Chad's head snapped up. "What?" She swallowed, bracing through the waves of pain. "It's titanium. Custom built." Her hand tightened on the pavement. "For athletes." The boys stared. Athletes. The word hit them like a slap. Gavin zoomed in on the prosthetic leg, his voice trembling against his will. "Bro, that's not a hospital leg. That's like professional gear." Chad tried to hide the confusion rising in his chest with a sneer. "What kind of cripple gets a titanium upgrade? Who do you think you are, a robot?" No one laughed this time. Amina blinked through the lingering pain, adjusting her weight slowly. Her hands steadied her wheelchair. Her posture strengthened. She forced her body to respond, even though every nerve beneath her ribs screamed. And then, her eyes lifted. The boys weren't ready for what they saw. Moments earlier, her gaze had been full of restraint, pain swallowed, fear controlled, focus narrowed on survival. But now, something inside her shifted, a flicker, a spark, a flash of something sharper than pain. Her eyes hardened. They weren't the eyes of someone begging bullies to stop. They weren't the eyes of someone trying to endure. They weren't the eyes of a victim. They were the eyes of someone issuing a warning, a silent, lethal warning. Gavin's hand shook around his phone. A chill ran up his arms, making the camera wobble. He tried to steady it, but he couldn't. Something primal in him whispered that he should put the phone down and walk away. That filming this was no longer entertainment, it was evidence. "What's wrong with her eyes?" Logan muttered. Ellie knew. Ellie understood before any of them. "That's not fear," she whispered. "That's readiness." Chad mistook the silence for weakness. He always did. He stepped closer again, emboldened by his anger, convinced he had regained control. "You think you're tough?" he spat. "You think a fancy robot leg makes you someone special?" Amina didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her body spoke for her, every muscle aligning, every breath intentional. The pain was still there, but beneath it was a rising heat, a coiled force, a readiness to do more than defend. Chad didn't notice the shift, but Gavin did. He lowered the camera a few inches. "Guys, maybe we should chill," he whispered. Chad rounded on him. "Shut up, Gavin. She's nothing." Amina continued to lift herself upright, her hands gripping the wheels with the calm, precise tension of someone measuring the distance between survival and retaliation. Her breathing steadied, her shoulders squared, her jaw tightened, her eyes, once soft, now locked onto Chad like a predator calculating distance. Ellie clutched her backpack, heart racing. "She's going to fight back," Ellie whispered. "I know that look. I've seen it on fighters before the bell rings." But none of the boys heard her. Chad smirked again, leaning down toward the metal joint he had failed to break. "What kind of trash leg doesn't snap?" he muttered. "Stupid thing's harder than my bat." He lifted his foot again. But this time, Amina didn't flinch. She didn't brace. She didn't cry out. She simply stared at him with a new expression that made the air around them shift. An expression that said, "I'm done holding back." Chad hesitated for the briefest moment, but his ego pushed him forward. "Let's see how many hits your stupid cyborg leg can take," he snarled. He raised his foot higher. Gavin's breath hitched. His camera trembled more violently now, as if his body instinctively recognized what his mind refused to admit. This wasn't a bullying session anymore. This was the start of a fight, a real one. And for the first time since he began recording, Gavin felt fear not for Amina, but for Chad. Amina's eyes shifted from pain to warning, a cold transformation that sent a ripple of dread through the group. Behind the camera, Gavin's hand shook harder because deep down, he knew Chad was about to cross a line he could never come back from. The courtyard was filling again. Students streamed out of the school building in scattered clusters, laughing, shouting, earbuds in, backpacks slung over their shoulders. None of them noticed the small battlefield forming in the center of the path until it was too late. Amina steadied her wheelchair, her breathing controlled but her muscles rigid with warning. The burn in her leg joint still pulsed like a distant alarm, but her eyes held that same cold, unblinking focus. The bullies felt it even if they pretended not to. Drew Maddox stepped forward next, bigger than the others, broad shoulders, heavy arms, and the kind of dull arrogance that came from never facing consequences. Sweat still clung to his brow, the remnants of a nervous reaction he didn't fully understand. But when he saw Chad's rage and Logan's confused retreat, he felt pressure rise inside him. He needed to prove himself. To Chad. To the group. To his own fragile ego. He moved toward the wheelchair, forcing a grin despite the tension tightening his throat. He planted his sneaker directly in front of Amina's left wheel, stopping the chair cold. "I want to see you cry," Drew said. Not yelled, not joked. Said. Soft, deliberate, malicious. A nearby group of students slowed down, unsure of what they were witnessing. Ellie pushed through them. Terror and fury etched across her face. "Stop! Leave her alone!" Ellie shouted. She moved between Amina and the boys, arms spread as if her tiny frame could be a barrier. Logan reacted instantly. He shoved her hard. Ellie stumbled backward, landing on the concrete with a painful thud. Her glasses skidded across the ground. Several students gasped. A few reached to help her, but fear rooted their feet. Amina's head snapped toward Ellie. Something inside her shifted. Something quiet. Something final. Drew leaned in closer, placing more weight on the wheelchair tire, grinding it into the pavement. His voice dropped lower. "Come on, cripple, cry, scream, beg." Gavin lifted his camera higher, but his hands weren't steady. The lens shook, catching glimpses of Amina's face, the tightening jaw, the steady breath, the gathering resolve. The air thickened around them like a storm pulling itself inward. Amina exhaled once. Then she moved. Her arm shot out so fast that Drew didn't see it until her fingers were already wrapped around his wrist. Her grip was iron. Not the grip of someone defensive or panicked. The grip of someone trained. Drew's eyes widened. What? Before he could react, before he could even pull away, Amina rotated her torso in one precise motion. Her hand twisted his wrist sharply inward, her elbow aligned, her core anchored, her timing flawless. Wrist lock, a technique not meant to injure, but to control. Amina executed it with surgical precision. Crack, not bone, but tension, the ligaments screaming, Drew collapsing. His knees hit the pavement first. His breath hitched in a strangled gasp. His free hand flailed helplessly, searching for something to grasp, to stabilize himself, to understand what was happening. Pain lit up his nerves like electricity. "Ow, ow, stop." Drew choked out, face whitening. The groups of nearby students froze. The bullies froze. Even Gavin lowered the camera in shock. Amina had not stood. She had not swung. She had not lashed out blindly. She had executed a professional-level joint lock from a seated position with the ease of someone who had practiced it thousands of times. "No way," Logan whispered. "No way she just did that." Chad's mouth hung open. She knows." Fighting? Gavin replayed the last second in his mind and felt a chill crawl down his spine. She grabbed him like a real martial artist. Drew whimpered, unable to move. Amina finally released him. Her hand fell back to her wheel calmly, smoothly, as if nothing about her breathing or pulse had changed. Drew collapsed on the ground, holding his wrist, eyes glossy with tears, not from the pain alone, but from humiliation. Ellie, still sitting on the ground, watching through blurred lenses, whispered, "She fought back. She actually fought back." Amina turned toward Drew. She didn't look triumphant. She didn't look angry. She looked tired, tired of absorbing pain, tired of being targeted, tired of pretending she couldn't defend herself. Then, for the first time since the entire ordeal began, Amina spoke. Her voice was low, calm, unshaken. "I've been holding back." The words hit the courtyard like a dropped match in dry grass. Students watching froze. Bullies stiffened. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. Ellie stared at her, eyes wide. Chad felt a hot wave of anger flood his chest. Gavin slowly lowered his camera, heart thudding against his ribs. Drew scrambled backward, clutching his wrist. "S!" "She broke my hand. She's crazy." "She didn't break anything," Ellie snapped, standing shakily. "She controlled you. That was technique." Chad rounded on Ellie. "Shut up. You don't know anything." But Ellie did know. She recognized it immediately. She had watched hours of fights with her brother. She had seen tutorials, championship slow-motion clips. She knew what she saw. That wasn't a lucky move. That was a trained response. Amina Carter was not who they thought she was. Chad's face twisted with humiliation and rage. He couldn't handle the fact that his group wasn't winning anymore. He couldn't handle the fact that the disabled girl had just disarmed one of his strongest members without standing up. He spat onto the pavement. "You think this is over?" he said, voice trembling with fury. "You think you can embarrass us and get away with it?" Amina didn't respond. She simply adjusted her wheels and turned her body slightly toward him, subtle but unmistakable. A challenge, a warning. Chad felt the shift but mistook it for arrogance instead of preparation. "Oh, I'm done playing," he snarled. He pulled out his phone and typed rapidly. Gavin frowned. Chad? What are you doing?" Chad's eyes didn't leave Amina as he replied. "I'm calling backup." Logan froze. "Who?" Chad smirked. "The football team," Ellie gasped. Gavin's fingers tightened around his phone. Amina's expression didn't change, but the air around her seemed to tighten even more than before. Amina's first words, "I've been holding back," hung in the air like a warning no one had the wisdom to heed. As Chad pressed send, summoning reinforcements, Gavin's hand began trembling again because he finally understood. This was no longer bullying. This was a fight they were about to lose. The courtyard, once a simple after-school walkway, now pulsed like an arena. Word spread faster than breath. "Something's happening by the fountain," and in less than a minute, students flooded the space, forming a loose circle around Amina and the boys. Phones lifted. Screens glowed. Voices whispered. Energy thickened. Amina sat at the center, her wheelchair steady, her eyes sharp. The wind brushed her braids lightly, carrying the scent of grass and asphalt. She was breathing evenly now, not from exhaustion, but from focus. Chad stood opposite her, chest puffed out, anger burning like a fuse about to reach an explosive charge. Behind him arrived 3 new shadows, 3 hulking figures in matching orange jerseys, members of the Bellington Bulls football team. Linebackers, built to collide, not built to think. Chad nodded at them with satisfaction. "That's her. Make sure she stays down." The biggest of the 3, a boy named Tyler, cracked his neck with a grin. "A girl in a chair? Easy." Ellie swallowed hard. She wanted to scream, wanted to protest, but fear pinned her to the ground. Gavin, still recording, felt his stomach twist, but his fingers refused to stop rolling. Chad clapped his hands sharply. "All right, surround her." Drew, Logan, and the 3 football players fanned out, forming a predatory ring. Amina didn't swivel to track them. She didn't need to. Her senses sharpened. She could hear their steps, feel their positions through the air. sensed the shift of weight and intent around her. Chad barked the first order. Hit her from behind. Tyler obeyed instantly. He lunged. Fast, heavy, full force, aiming to slam both hands onto the back of Amina's wheelchair and topple her forward onto the concrete. Gasps erupted across the crowd. But Amina was already moving. Her right hand gripped the wheel. Her left hand gripped the armrest. Her torso twisted, and in a lightning-fast pivot, she spun the wheelchair to the right clean, controlled, powerful. Tyler's momentum missed the back of the chair completely, leaving his midsection exposed. In the same motion, Amina planted her left hand on the armrest and launched her left leg upward, prosthetic slicing through the air with precision. U.P. kick. Her foot struck Tyler's chin with a sharp, brutal snap. Crack! His head jerked backward. His body lifted several inches off the ground from the sheer force. He staggered, collapsed to his knees, then hit the pavement, face first. The courtyard erupted. Screams, shouts, shock, pure electricity. Holy, did you see that? No way she did that from a wheelchair. She knocked him out. She actually knocked him out. Chad's jaw dropped. Logan nearly fell backward. Drew instinctively stepped behind Chad like a frightened child. Amina lowered her legs slowly, deliberately, her breathing calm, her shoulders squared. She didn't even glance at Tyler, who was groaning incoherently. She was already tracking the next threat, because she knew they wouldn't stop. Two more teammates, Reese and Dalton, recovered from shock and charged in from opposite sides, trying to catch her while she was still recovering from the upkick. But Amina wasn't recovering. She was transitioning. Reese reached her first, swinging a wide arm toward her shoulder. Amina ducked slightly, grabbed his sleeve, and yanked him forward, using the armrest and her core as anchor points. The motion destabilized him. His knees slammed into the wheelchair frame. Before he could react, Amina's elbow shot forward. Strike one, direct into his solar plexus, knocking the air from his lungs. He gasped, folding inward. Dalton rushed in from her left, reaching to grab her arm and restrain her. Amina pivoted on her right wheel, catching Dalton's wrist mid-grab. Strike two. A sharp heel kick to his thigh, sending a shock through his nerves. Dalton hissed, stumbling. Reese tried to push himself upright, wheezing. Amina moved faster. Using the armrest as leverage, she spun her torso and delivered a third, clean strike. Strike three. A precise hammer fist to the collarbone. Reese collapsed instantly. 3 moves. 3 takedowns. All from a sitting position. Students screamed, "Oh my God, she's trained! That's professional stuff. I've seen that combo online Europe MMA Championship highlights." Ellie grabbed her chest, trembling. She's using the European combo. The 3-step seated counterattack. The one from Vienna. She couldn't believe her eyes, but she knew them. She had watched that viral clip of a teenage fighter performing it against a standing opponent in under 10 seconds. That fighter had been Amina Carter. Chad's face drained of color. Drew looked ready to run. Logan stared at Amina like she wasn't human. What is she?" Drew whispered. "A fighter," Ellie said under her breath. "A world-class fighter." Chad's rage surged back, fueled now by fear. No, she doesn't get to win," he yelled, voice cracking. "Get her! All of you get her right now." But no one moved. Not because they were loyal, not because they were afraid of Chad, but because they were afraid of her. Amina's expression hadn't changed. Calm, focused, dangerous. She rotated her chair back into a neutral position, ready for more if they dared. Gavin's camera shook violently as he zoomed in. "Chad, man, we need to stop. This is going too far." Chad ignored him. He pointed at Amina with a trembling finger. "She's attacking us. She's insane." "You attacked her first," Ellie screamed, voice cracking with fear and fury. But amid the chaos, a voice interrupted everything. "What is going on here?" "Mr. Halston, a teacher." He pushed through the crowd, eyes landing on exactly the wrong moment. Amina lowering her arm after taking down Reese, Dalton, and Tyler. 3 boys on the ground. A girl in a wheelchair with her arm raised. The worst possible interpretation. "Amina Carter," Mr. Halston shouted. "Stand down immediately." She didn't. Ellie tried to speak, but her voice drowned under the murmurs of the crowd. Chad seized the moment. "She attacked us! She's gone mad!" Amina's gaze flicked toward the teacher, not afraid, but resigned, almost disappointed. She had expected this. Of course they would blame the girl in the wheelchair, who fought back. Of course nobody saw the beginning. Of course the bullies would twist reality. But she wasn't done yet. The fight wasn't over. For the first time, real fear spread through the bullies because they realized she could fight back, and worse, she could win. Just as Mr. Halston reached for his radio, Chad whispered to Gavin, "Keep recording. We can use this against her." And Amina, finally prepared to stop holding back completely. The crowd around the courtyard thickened into a solid ring, closing Amina inside a human arena. The air pulsed with adrenaline, fear, and the electric hum of dozens of phones pointed toward her. Students whispered, gasped, shoved each other for a better view. Some recorded for entertainment, others recorded in pure disbelief. None of them fully understood what they were witnessing. And then, a sharp whistle split the chaos. "Stop! Right now, Mr. Halston," one of the senior teachers, sprinted through the crowd with startling speed. His clipboard thudded against his side. His tie flapped violently as he pushed past students who scrambled to get out of his way, just in time to see Amina, breathing hard, eyes focused, body still tense, deliver a clean hip rotation that toppled Reese, the linebacker who had charged her moments earlier. Reese hit the pavement with a loud grunt, and that was all Mr. Halston saw. He did not see the kick aimed at her chair. He did not see the shove that nearly knocked Ellie unconscious. He did not see the football players circle her like predators. All he saw was a girl in a wheelchair taking down a third athlete. "Amina Carter!" he roared, voice trembling with authority and outrage. "Are you attacking students?" A gasp rippled through the crowd. Amina froze. Reese rolled on the ground, clutching his chest. Drew whimpered beside him, still rubbing his wrist. Logan covered his mouth dramatically. And Chad, ever the opportunist, fell to his knees, clutching his stomach as if he'd been fatally wounded. "Mr. Halston, she went crazy!" Chad cried out, voice cracking in theatrical agony. "She attacked us. We didn't even touch her." Amina's eyes widened, horror and disbelief crashing over her. "That's not true," she said, breath still unsteady. But Mr. Halston cut her off instantly. "Enough! You think I didn't just see you slam a student onto the ground? 3 of them," he snapped, face flushing with anger. "You're in a wheelchair, Amina. How do you explain attacking 3 healthy boys?" Amina inhaled sharply, trying to steady her voice. "I didn't attack them. I defended myself." Halston shook his head. "You call that defending? I saw you strike that boy without provocation." Chad couldn't resist. He let out a sob so fake it should have won an award. "She's dangerous, sir," he whimpered. "She's not normal." Logan clutched his own arm dramatically. "I think she fractured me." Reese groaned louder for effect. Students murmured. Their sympathy began to shift not toward Amina, but toward the boys who were suddenly acting like victims. Ellie pushed through the crowd, dirt still on her hands and knees from when Logan shoved her earlier. "That's not what happened," she shouted, voice breaking. "They attacked her first. I saw everything." But before she could say more, Gavin stepped forward, camera raised like a holy relic. "Sir, I recorded everything," he announced confidently. "I have proof." Mr. Halston seized on this instantly. "Good. Let's see it." Gavin smirked, thumb hovering over the screen, and then he played the video. But it didn't begin where the fight began. It didn't show the shove. It didn't show the kick to the wheelchair. It didn't show the circle tightening around Amina like a pack of wolves. Instead, the video started at the perfect moment for the bullies, when Amina countered the first linebacker. Just Amina, fighting back. Just Amina striking. Just Amina looking powerful. Without context, without cause, the crowd gasped. Several students recoiled. Oh my God, she really is attacking them. She took down 3 athletes? How is she that strong? What is wrong with her? Amina felt the world tilt. Her stomach dropped. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She looked around desperate for someone, anyone, to see the truth behind the edited frame. That's not the full video, Amina said quietly. He cut it. Gavin clutched his chest in false offense. Why would I do that? This is exactly what happened. Ellie burst forward, face red with fury. He's lying, she screamed. I saw him filming the whole time. He cut out everything before she defended herself. Students looked between Ellie and the boys, but the boys were bruised, dirty, wheezing dramatically. Amina looked terrifyingly competent, and Gavin's video looked very convincing. Whispers turned against her. She looks violent. Maybe she really snapped. Why would the boys lie? There are 5 of them. Ellie's voice cracked. Please, listen to me. She didn't start anything. They missed her. Halston raised his hand sharply. That's enough. Amina Carter, you are coming with me to the disciplinary office right now. Amina's breathing steadied again, but her eyes were different now, not scared, not panicked, cold, measured. Amina looked directly at Gavin. The truth isn't in your video, she said softly. Her voice didn't shake. It cut through the crowd. A few students stiffened. Some even believed her for a fleeting moment. But the bell had rung. The judgment had already been cast. Mr. Halston grabbed the handles of Amina's wheelchair, turning her away from the crowd. She didn't resist. She didn't plead. She simply let out a quiet exhale, as if she'd expected this outcome from the moment the boys cornered her. Behind them, Chad wiped fake tears from his cheeks. He pulled out his phone, thumbs flying across the screen. A text pinged into the bully group chat. Plan worked. She's screwed. Let's see what the cripple can do now. Gavin snickered. Logan laughed weakly. Drew clutched his wrist like a trophy. The crowd began to disperse, but Ellie remained standing, fists shaking, teeth clenched, because she alone knew this wasn't the beginning of Amina's downfall. It was the beginning of their. Amina's quiet words, "The truth isn't in your video," hung over the courtyard like a threat no one understood. As Mr. Halston pushed Amina toward the administrative building, Ellie sprinted toward the one person in school who might still listen, the counselor, Miss Turner. The disciplinary office smelled of old paper, burnt coffee, and the faint musk of fear, soaked into the carpet from the countless students who had sat in the same chair Amina was now being pushed into. The door clicked shut behind her with a heavy, final sound. The yellow ceiling light flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. It felt less like a school office and more like an interrogation room, too quiet, too enclosed, too intentional. Mr. Halston parked Amina's wheelchair in front of a wooden desk, scratched from decades of conflict. He stood behind her, arms folded, breathing heavily as if he had just wrestled a criminal into custody. Across the desk sat Principal Edgar Monroe, a tall, stiff man with silver hair and a permanent frown carved into his forehead. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed, and that made everything worse. "Miss Carter," he began, steepling his fingers. "This is very serious." Amina kept her eyes lowered, breathing slowly. The pain in her abdomen still pulsed from Chad's kick, but her face remained composed. "Sir," she began. "I didn't—" "You were recorded," Monroe interrupted sharply, "attacking 3 students. 3 athletes, no less." He tapped a folder on his desk. "Your actions were dangerous, highly inappropriate, and completely unacceptable." Behind the closed door, Ellie pressed her ear against the wood, desperate to hear every word. She wasn't allowed inside. Halston had ordered her to stay out, but she refused to leave. Inside, Monroe opened his laptop and turned the screen toward Amina. Gavin's edited video looped silently. Amina landing a strike. Amina toppling an athlete. Amina rotating with perfect precision. No context. No provocation. No threats shown. Just her. Violence without cause. "Do you deny this?" Monroe asked. Amina inhaled slowly, choosing her words with the precision of someone who understood that one wrong sentence could bury her. I deny the part where you think I started it. Halston scoffed behind her. Monroe's expression darkened. Miss Carter, he said, tapping the screen. You attacked 3 unarmed boys while sitting down. If that's not unprovoked aggression, I don't know what is. Amina's jaw clenched. They attacked me first. Halston stepped forward. That is enough. I saw you, young lady. I saw you knocking students to the ground. You saw the end, Amina replied quietly. The part where I defended myself. Monroe held up a hand to silence them both. Let me be clear, he said. We have more than just video. He picked up his phone, tapped the screen, and read aloud. Statement from Chad Riker. Amina Carter became aggressive without reason. She lunged at Logan Pierce first, screaming at him. We tried to calm her down, but she knocked Drew to the ground and then attacked 3 members of the football team who were trying to protect us. Monroe looked up. His expression said everything. Amina's breath stilled in her chest. Her fingers gripped the armrests so tightly her knuckles whitened. Chad had written an entire performance, a script designed to demonize her and absolve them. And here, Monroe continued, is a separate statement from Drew Maddox. He scrolled. Amina has anger issues. She snapped today. She threatened us. We were scared for our lives. Halston nodded solemnly. It matches what I witnessed. Amina suddenly felt like the wheelchair was shrinking beneath her. They weren't listening. They never had been. Her heartbeat pounded like a warning drum. She lifted her eyes to Monroe's. Sir, she said, voice low, please check the security camera at the front gate. It recorded everything. Monroe hesitated, that sliver of doubt, that crack in the foundation. Halston's face tightened. Principal Monroe, the gate cameras have been down for days. Monroe nodded gravely. The school is renovating the front entrance. The security feed has been offline for the last 72 hours. Amina frowned. That was too convenient. Too perfect. Offline, she repeated slowly. The exact spot where they cornered me? Correct, Monroe said. Amina's eyes narrowed. Who reported the malfunction? Monroe blinked, confused by the question. I'm not sure why that matters, Miss Carter, but let me check. He clicked through a few files on his computer, scrolling past maintenance reports and incident logs. Then he found it. Ah, here, Monroe said lightly. The report was submitted by… He paused. His eyes flicked up at Amina, then at Halston. By Chad Riker. Silence spilled across the room. Halston swallowed. Monroe sat back in his chair. Ellie outside the door gasped. Amina didn't flinch. Her voice turned cold. Sir, you are trusting the testimony of the boy who conveniently turned off the one camera that could prove what happened. Monroe's face stiffened. He didn't like the implication. Miss Carter, there is no proof he didn't. Amina countered softly. Her calmness wasn't submission. It was accusation, quiet, sharp, undeniable. And Monroe felt it. Halston cleared his throat loudly. Principal Monroe, we cannot entertain conspiracy theories from a student who just injured multiple people. Amina leveled her gaze at him. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it hit harder than any shout. You're believing the words of someone who staged everything. Monroe shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how the conversation was supposed to go. The roles were clear. He admonished, she complied. But Amina wasn't folding. She wasn't intimidated. She wasn't begging. That unsettled him more than anything. He closed the laptop, ending the debate. Miss Carter, he said stiffly, until further notice, you are suspended for 5 days pending investigation. Amina exhaled once a controlled, steady breath. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She placed her hands flat on the desk, leaned forward slightly, and said with chilling clarity, My father will be here shortly. Monroe hesitated. And who is your father? Amina's eyes sharpened. The man who trained me. A beat of silence. Then she added, International MMA coach, Marcus Carter. Monroe's face drained of color. Ellie outside the door clapped a hand over her mouth. Halston's jaw dropped. And Amina? She leaned back in her seat, as if reclaiming oxygen. When Amina said, "You're trusting the boy who planned everything," the temperature in the room dropped because deep down, Monroe knew she might be right. A message pinged on Monroe's phone. Marcus Carter had arrived in the parking lot, and he was not coming quietly. The hallway outside the disciplinary office buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Students scattered across the corridor in tense clusters, whispering in frantic tones, eyes darting toward the closed door where Amina had disappeared minutes earlier. Ellie Nguyen stood alone in the middle of the chaos, hugging her backpack like a shield. Her palms were sweaty, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She kept replaying the scene again and again, the shove, the kick to the wheelchair, the football boys surrounding Amina like predators. She had seen it all, with her own eyes, but no one believed her. A group of juniors passed by, faces pale. "Did you see the video? She totally attacked them. Crazy, right? She's like, secretly dangerous." They said she knocked out a linebacker with one kick. Ellie's stomach twisted. "It's fake," she whispered to them. He cut the beginning. He deleted the part where they attacked her. But the juniors exchanged uncomfortable glances, then walked away quickly, as if standing near Ellie meant taking sides against the most feared boys in school. Another student muttered behind her, "Don't get involved. Chad will ruin your life." And that was the truth. Everyone was scared of them, scared of their reputation, their influence, their ability to destroy someone socially. Chad Riker wasn't just a bully, he was a power structure. Ellie clenched her fists. "But someone has to help her," she whispered to herself. Across the hall, Logan and Drew leaned against the lockers, surrounded by a small crowd who hovered like flies around a dumpster fire. Drew was holding his wrist dramatically. "She twisted it so hard, man. I swear I heard something crack." "You're such a liar," Ellie muttered under her breath. Logan was more animated. "Dude, she flipped Tyler like a pancake. It was insane." "And from a wheelchair?" someone asked. "But why would she attack you guys?" Logan shrugged theatrically. She snapped. "These disabled types can be unpredictable," the crowd murmured sympathetically. Ellie wanted to scream. But the situation worsened when Gavin strutted into the hallway, phone raised high like a trophy, grin stretched wide across his smug face. "Okay, everyone," he announced, "check your notifications." Several phones buzzed simultaneously. Within seconds, students gasped as they opened the video. Amina striking, Amina spinning, Amina attacking. Just the parts Gavin wanted the world to see. Someone read aloud the caption he'd added, "Disabled girl snaps and attacks." The crowd erupted. "What the hell? She's dangerous. She belongs in a hospital, not a school." I knew there was something off about her. What if she snaps again? Ellie pushed through the crowd, trembling. "That's not what happened. You're sharing lies." But no one listened. The video was too convincing. The bullies looked too injured. Amina looked too powerful. And fear always spread faster than truth. Gavin puffed out his chest. "Evidence speaks for itself. I captured the whole thing." "No," Ellie snapped. "You captured what you wanted people to see." Gavin's smirk faltered, but only for a second. Drew jumped in, talking loudly so everyone could hear. "Good thing Chad deleted the part where he kicked her chair. If people saw that..." Logan elbowed him sharply. Drew froze. Too late. Ellie's eyes widened. What did you just say?" Drew blinked rapidly, sweating. I didn't mean." Ellie stepped closer, voice low but steady. "Chad deleted what video, Drew?" Drew looked around nervously, staring at the phones filming him now. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. Nothing." But Ellie wasn't letting this go, not now, not ever. She took out her phone and pressed record, speaking calmly. "Say it again." "Chad deleted which part of the video?" Logan hissed into Drew's ear. "Shut up." But Drew was panicking, and his mouth ran faster than his brain. "I mean, look, if Chad hadn't deleted the clip where he kicked her wheelchair." Then Logan shoved him. "Dude!" But the words had already left Drew's mouth, and Ellie had captured them. Her phone screen blinked red. Recording saved. She took a step back, clutching the phone like a lifeline. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Her breath came shaky and uneven. But she had it. She had proof. She had a piece of the truth. Small, but explosive. Ellie's voice trembled, half in fear, half in triumph. "You boys are done." Drew's face drained of color. Logan looked like he wanted to rip the phone from her hands, but didn't dare with so many eyes on them. Gavin swallowed hard, because for the first time, the power began to shift. Ellie turned toward the large office window, the glass reflecting the yellow glow inside. She could see Amina through it, seated at the disciplinary desk, her back straight, her hands folded, her face as cold and unreadable as stone, but her eyes, God, her eyes, they weren't pleading, they weren't afraid. They were steady, controlled, like a fighter waiting for the bell to ring. Ellie felt a shiver race down her spine. She whispered to herself, "She's not breaking. They can't break her." Behind the glass, Amina lifted her chin slightly, not in defiance, but in composure, in acceptance, in understanding. She knew she was being framed. She knew the system was already siding with her attackers, and yet she didn't crumble. Her calmness scared Ellie more than any scream would have. It wasn't resignation. It was preparation. The wall of lies the bullies built around her was starting to crack, not because Amina fought it directly, but because Ellie did. And Ellie wasn't done. Not even close. A surge of purpose filled her trembling limbs. She tightened her grip on her phone and spun around, hair whipping behind her. There was only one adult in the entire school who had a reputation for fairness. One person who didn't bow to athletic favoritism or social pressure. Miss Catherine Turner. Student counselor, the one teacher who actually listened. Ellie whispered, "She'll know what to do." Her sneakers slapped hard against the polished floor as she sprinted toward the counseling wing, heart pounding with adrenaline and hope. Behind her, Logan hissed, "We're screwed if she shows that to anyone." Gavin ran a hand through his hair. Pale. "I told you we shouldn't mess with the video." Drew groaned, "Chad's gonna kill me." But Ellie didn't look back. She had truth in her hands. Amina had strength in her eyes. And the bullies finally had something to fear. Ellie's last glimpse through the window showed Amina's expression icy, composed, dangerously calm, a fighter, silently preparing for the next round. Clutching her recording, Ellie sprinted toward Miss Turner's office, the only adult who might believe her, and the only one who could stop the lies before they swallowed Amina whole. Miss Catherine Turner's counseling office was a sanctuary usually. Warm wooden furniture, green plants, shelves filled with self-help books and college brochures. But today, the room felt tense, compressed, suffocating. The fluorescent light flickered faintly above the desk stacked with case files, casting a pale glow across Ellie Nguyen's anxious face. Ellie stood trembling, phone clutched in her hand. Her breath came in sharp, uneven pulls, as though every second she wasn't speaking was another second Amina was being buried alive. Miss Turner closed the door behind them and motioned for Ellie to sit. "Start from the beginning," she said gently. "Tell me everything." Ellie didn't sit. She spoke in a rush, words tumbling out like water breaking through a dam. They attacked her first. All of them, Chad, Logan, Drew, the football boys. They pushed her, kicked her wheelchair, cornered her. She defended herself. That's all she did. But Gavin cut the video. He cut the whole beginning. He made it look like she started everything. Miss Turner's eyes narrowed, interest sharpening. "You're certain of this?" "I saw it," Ellie insisted. "And I recorded something Drew saying Chad deleted the video of him kicking her chair." She thrust her phone forward with trembling hands. "Please, you have to listen." Miss Turner took the phone. Ellie's recording played. "Good thing Chad deleted the clip where he kicked her wheelchair if people saw that." "Dude, shut up!" The counselor paused the audio. Her jaw tightened. Her posture shifted. Her calm expression hardened into something fierce. "You're right," she whispered. "Something is very, very wrong here." Ellie felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. "No one believes me. They're all scared of the boys. They think Amina is dangerous. Miss Turner placed a steady hand on Ellie's shoulder. I believe you. Ellie let out a shaky breath of relief. But the moment was cut short by a sudden ping, then another, then dozens more. Notifications exploded across every phone in the hallway outside. Ellie's phone vibrated violently with the same incoming message. So did Miss Turner's. Chad Riker had sent a mass text to the entire student body. That girl has been suspended. Justice has prevailed. Message me if you want the full clip. Outside the office, the reaction was instantaneous. Cheers. Laughter. Cruel jokes bouncing off the walls. Finally, she's out. Good riddance, psycho. Ellie's heart sank like a stone. She grabbed Miss Turner's sleeve. See? He's celebrating. He knows he framed her. Miss Turner shut her office blinds with a snap, blocking out the students' shadows and their ugly triumph. Her voice lowered into a controlled, dangerous calm. Ellie, I need you to stay here. She turned toward her computer, typed rapidly. Opened the school's internal security system. Wait, Ellie said, confused. I thought the cameras were offline. Miss Turner didn't look up. The main cameras near the gate are under repair. But I have full access to auxiliary feeds. Cameras most staff don't even know exist. Ellie leaned in closer, pulse racing. Miss Turner clicked through several inactive screens, static, black frames, until one feed flickered to life. Camera C12. Position. East lawn. Corner of the courtyard. A wide-angle shot appeared grainy, distant, partially obstructed by a tree, but visible. Clearly visible. The moment Chad shoved Amina's chair, the moment Logan pushed Ellie to the ground, the moment the football boys rushed toward the wheelchair, the video captured almost everything leading up to the first blow. Ellie gasped. Oh my God! This changes everything! Miss Turner analyzed the footage with a stern intensity. It's not perfect. It didn't catch the whole altercation. But it's enough to expose lies. Enough to tear open the boy's story. Her eyes sharpened with purpose. Enough to make the administration listen. Ellie bit her lip. So, Amina won't be suspended anymore? Miss Turner leaned back, folding her arms. No, she said firmly. We haven't lost. This is our turning point. Her voice carried weight, calm, authoritative, unwavering. Ellie had never been more grateful to hear an adult speak with conviction. But then Miss Turner grabbed her office phone. Where are you going? Ellie asked shakily. Miss Turner stood, her movements decisive. I'm calling the one person who will demand the truth be heard. Who? She looked Ellie dead in the eyes. Amina's father. Ellie inhaled sharply. She'd heard whispers, rumors that Amina's dad was some kind of coach. But she never imagined Marcus Carter, Miss Turner said. International MMA trainer. Ellie's knees nearly buckled. Miss Turner dialed quickly. A deep, commanding voice answered before the first ring even finished. Yes? Yes. It wasn't a question. It was a warning. Mr. Carter, Miss Turner said, this is Counselor Turner from Bellington High. There's been an incident with your daughter. I believe she has been wrongfully accused. Silence. Dead. Heavy silence. Then, I'm already on my way, Marcus Carter replied. I have been since she texted me. Miss Turner's eyes widened slightly. Sir, I'll be there in 3 minutes, he said, and we will set this school straight. The line clicked off. Ellie exhaled in awe. Miss Turner gathered the printouts, the audio file, and the auxiliary footage. Let's go, she said. Where? Ellie asked. To stop a miscarriage of justice. Miss Turner glanced at Ellie and said with conviction, we haven't lost. This is the turning point. With the evidence in hand and Marcus Carter racing toward the school, the balance of power was about to shift violently. The parking lot of Bellington High had never known silence like this. Every student lingering outside froze when a sleek black SUV pulled into the nearest space smooth, controlled, deliberate. The engine cut off. The driver's door opened, and Marcus Carter stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, presence sharp as carved granite. He didn't storm across the asphalt, he paced, each step heavy with purpose. A man who had coached champions. A man who had lived in arenas where pain was a language and precision was survival. A man who didn't raise his voice unless the world needed to shake. He wore no anger on his face, just a carved calmness that was far more frightening. Miss Turner rushed toward him, clutching her tablet. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming so quickly." Marcus didn't waste words. "Where is she?" "Inside the disciplinary office. They've issued a temporary suspension." Marcus's jaw flexed, his eyes hardened. "Show me the footage," he said. Miss Turner handed him her tablet, already cued to Gavin's edited video. Marcus watched it in complete silence. The hallway chatter, the distant hum of students, the wind whipping against the flags, none of it existed to him. He watched Amina being portrayed as an aggressor. He watched the carefully chosen starting point. He watched every second of manipulated framing. Then his voice dropped into a cold register. "This is not the beginning." "No," Miss Turner said quietly. "And there's more." She opened the auxiliary camera feed. The angle was distant, obstructed, imperfect, but enough. Chad shoving Amina's wheelchair. Logan pushing Ellie. The football boys closing in. Marcus leaned closer. Then, Amina's base control, executed flawlessly. Her upkick, precise to the millimeter. Her three-strike European combo, the exact one he drilled into her last summer during training for the Vienna Youth Invitational. "I trained her for that sequence," he said softly. "I taught her that fall, that pivot, that counter." He straightened, shoulders rising, as if absorbing the weight of what had been done to his daughter, and the weight of the lies told about her. "Mr. Carter, Miss," Turner said, voice careful, "they made their decision based solely on the edited clip." "Then they made the wrong decision," Marcus replied. His footsteps thundered through the hallway as he approached the disciplinary office. "Miss," Turner followed, her heart pounding. Inside, Principal Monroe sat stiffly behind his desk, tapping at his keyboard while pretending not to be terrified. Amina sat across from him, calm, cold, composed. She didn't look surprised when the door swung open. Marcus entered. Every molecule in the room rearranged itself to make space for him. Amina's face softened. "Dad," Marcus crouched beside her wheelchair, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You okay?" She nodded once. "I'm fine." He turned to Monroe. "You suspended my daughter," Marcus said, "based on doctored footage." Monroe cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, we acted on the evidence available." Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. Crack. The sound echoed off the office walls like a gunshot. "You acted on a lie." Monroe flinched. Halston, standing in the corner, paled visibly. Marcus locked eyes with Monroe, staring through him, not at him. "My daughter defended herself against multiple attackers. You punished her for surviving." "Sir," Monroe stammered. "Even so, her techniques were exactly what I trained her for," Marcus cut in. "To survive, to endure, to get home safe." He straightened to his full height. Monroe shrank in comparison. "Principal Monroe," Marcus said, voice calm but lethal. "If I take this to the district board, to the state athletic commission, to the disability rights office, your entire administration will be investigated for misconduct, negligence, bias, abuse of power." Monroe swallowed hard. "Let's not escalate." "This school escalated," Marcus replied, "when it protected the attackers instead of the victim." Miss Turner stepped forward. "We have additional footage that contradicts the boy's statements." Monroe looked like he might faint. Marcus placed both hands on the desk, leaning forward. "I'm requesting a special hearing," he said. "Today, right now, with all parents present." Monroe blinked. "Today?" "Yes," Marcus said, "unless you prefer the school board to hear about this first." Monroe's resolve crumbled. "Oh, of course, we can, yes. We can arrange a disciplinary hearing." Marcus nodded once. "Good." Silence settled for a moment. Amina looked up at her father, expression softening slightly. "Dad, I don't want revenge. His gaze shifted, cooling into something gentler. I know. I want justice, she whispered. Marcus placed a hand over hers. And justice is exactly what we're going to get. Outside the window, a group of students passed by, unaware that the ground beneath their world was shifting. Monroe picked up his phone with shaking fingers. Halston scrambled to gather paperwork. Miss Turner stood taller than she ever had. Amina closed her eyes briefly, drawing in a steady breath. Good, Marcus said quietly, because this ends today. Within the hour, a special disciplinary hearing was convened. Parents, staff, and the entire varsity Bulls summoned, still unaware that Amina now held the one thing they never expected, asterisk proof. The large conference hall of Bellington High had been converted into an emergency disciplinary chamber. A long oak table stretched down the center, with teachers on one side, parents on the other. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, leaking pale light onto anxious faces. Murmurs floated through the room like smoke. At the far end sat Amina Carter, posture straight, hands folded on her lap. Next to her stood her father, Marcus, a silent mountain of authority. Miss Turner sat to their right, papers organized, jaw tight with determination. Principal Monroe entered, attempting to mask the tremor in his hands. We will now begin the emergency disciplinary hearing regarding the altercation involving Miss Amina Carter. Chad Riker shot Amina a smug glance before clearing his throat dramatically. He stood, clutching his mother's hand for effect, his father sitting beside him with a scowl that could cut wood. I'll go first, Chad said, as though volunteering for a hero's speech. He turned to the room, projecting his voice. Earlier today, he began, I approached Amina simply to ask if she needed help, but she snapped completely unprovoked. She attacked me and my friends. She was out of control. His mother dabbed at imaginary tears. His father growled, Students like her should not be here. Murmurs of agreement rippled among uninformed parents. Logan nodded vigorously. Drew wrapped his wrist in a bandage for dramatic flair. Then came Gavin. He stood up, shoulders trembling, voice quivering in false grief. I haven't slept since it happened, he whispered. Her face when she attacked, I thought she was going to kill us. He wiped a tear that didn't exist. I recorded the end of it, because I was scared for my life. The room reacted exactly as they intended. Gasps, shaken heads, whispered judgments. Amina remained silent. Principal Monroe turned to her. Miss Carter, do you have a statement? A hush fell. Amina pushed her wheelchair back slightly and rose to her feet, balancing on her prosthetic leg with steady control. The entire room stiffened. Her strength was startling, undeniable. She looked directly at Chad, Gavin, Drew, and Logan. If I wanted to attack you, Amina said calmly, none of you would be sitting upright in those chairs right now. The room exploded with shocked whispers. Even Monroe's eyes widened. One parent dropped her pen. Amina continued, voice cool and unwavering. I defended myself. That's the truth. Chad jumped from his chair. She's threatening us again right now. Do you hear that? Logan chimed in. She's dangerous. She's violent. Miss Turner stood abruptly. That's enough theatrics. She looked to Monroe. I'd like to submit video evidence from an auxiliary campus camera. The room shifted. Chad paled. Logan froze. Drew's eyes went wide. Gavin's breath hitched. Monroe reluctantly nodded. Proceed. Miss Turner connected her laptop to the projector. The screen flickered, then stabilized on the grainy footage from camera C12. The angle was imperfect, the distance far, the tree branch partly obstructing the view, but the truth still shone through. There was Drew, kicking the side of Amina's wheelchair. There was Logan, shoving Ellie hard enough to send her sprawling. There was Tyler, rushing at Amina from behind. A gasp rippled across the room. That's they. Oh my God. Parents whose sympathy once leaned toward the bullies now turned in disgust. Drew's mother whispered, Drew, what did you do? Logan's father stiffened, fury replacing the false victimhood they'd carried into the hearing. Gavin slowly slid down in his chair, face draining of color. Chad tried to speak, but his voice broke. That doesn't show everything." "No," Miss Turner replied sharply, "but it shows enough." Monroe rubbed his forehead, panic creeping into his expression. Everything he had assumed, everything he had supported it, was crumbling. Marcus Carter rose from his seat. The room fell silent. He walked to the center of the floor, shoulders squared, expression carved from stone. The bullies shrank in their seats as though an avalanche were bearing down on them. Marcus turned slowly, addressing the entire room. "My daughter was attacked," he said. "And you punished her for defending herself." Monroe swallowed. "Mr. Carter." Marcus slammed a small folder on the table, the sound echoing through the hall. "You all judged her based on a lie, based on children who staged a coordinated assault and framed the victim." His glare fell on Chad. "And you almost succeeded." The room shifted uncomfortably. Marcus held up a small silver USB drive between his fingers. "And now," he said, voice dropping into lethal calm, "let's see what I brought." He inserted the USB into the laptop. The projector screen went black, then displayed the title, International Youth MMA Championships, Vienna Division Athlete, Amina Cartera. Collective gasp filled the air. Amina looked down, her breath catching. She hadn't wanted this revealed, but her father had chosen the moment to pull the curtain back. Marcus addressed the room. "You thought she was attacking? You thought she was dangerous?" He pointed at the footage. "She used the minimum force required to survive, because she is trained, because she is skilled, because she is disciplined." Chad's face was chalk white. Gavin trembled. Drew slumped into his seat as if his spine had dissolved. Logan looked physically ill. The parents stared at the screen, then at Amina. Not with fear, but with dawning respect. Marcus stepped aside and said, "You've heard their lies. Now watch what real discipline looks like." Unquote. The room braced as the video loaded Amina's championship match. Her true skill, and the undeniable truth about who she really was, about to be revealed. The conference room fell into an unnatural stillness as the overhead lights dimmed and the projector cast its glow across the long oak table, all eyes fixed on the large screen as the championship footage played. Amina Carter, younger, smaller, but with the same silent fire in her eyes, stepped into an international MMA ring. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers. "Youth Division Finals, Amina Carter, USA." The room watched, transfixed. Amina executed perfect base control against a lunging opponent. A flawless up-kick counter. A three-strike European combo identical to the one she used in the schoolyard. The same technique, the same precision, the same discipline. Whispers rippled like a wave across the room. "That's exactly what she did today. She wasn't attacking, she was countering. And she's trained, she knew how to survive." Marcus stepped forward, remote in hand. He paused the video on a frame showing Amina in a textbook defensive stance. Then he turned to the room, voice steady as steel. "A professional athlete never strikes first." He let the silence settle, heavy and suffocating. "A trained fighter only reacts when threatened." The words hit like a hammer. Across the table, several parents shifted uneasily. Drew's father swallowed hard. Logan's mother covered her mouth with trembling fingers. And finally, Chad's parents exchanged a terrified glance. Drew tugged at his bandaged wrist, suddenly unable to meet anyone's eyes. Gavin slumped lower in his chair. Then, in a small, cracking voice, Drew's mother asked the question hanging in every parent's mind. "Did our children lie?" A pin could have dropped and echoed. Amina didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her calm demeanor, her refusal to crumble, was speaking louder than any accusation. Chad snapped. His chair screeched backward as he jumped to his feet, face red, sweat beading along his brow. "Why didn't the camera turn off?" he shouted, voice cracking under pressure. He whipped toward Logan. "I told you to check the cameras, all of them. You said they were off." Logan's face blanched. He shook his head violently, panic flooding his voice. I thought they were. I swear, Chad. I thought they were turned off. You said only the gate cameras mattered." Chad's voice rose to a shrill, venomous pitch. "You idiot! There were auxiliary cams! I told you to make sure!" Logan's lip quivered. Tears pooled in his eyes. I didn't know. I swear. I thought we covered everything. I didn't know there was another angle." The room collectively inhaled. Every parent, every teacher, every administrator. They had not just lied. They had coordinated the lie. "Miss," Turner stepped forward, pinning the boys with a gaze sharp enough to cut. "So," she said quietly, "not only did you attack a disabled girl, you tried to erase the evidence." Logan broke first. Tears streamed down his face as he sobbed into his hands. "We didn't mean for it to go this far. We just," Chad said. "I thought the camera was off." Gavin trembled so hard the chair rattled beneath him. Drew tried to shrink into the fabric of his hoodie. Chad looked around wild, cornered, furious, but every pair of eyes in the room had turned against him. His parents stared at him in horror. "You manipulated the school, Mr." Riker whispered, voice trembling. "And you lied to us?" Chad flinched. He had never heard that tone from his father before. Logan cried harder. Gavin wiped his face, shaking. Drew whispered, "We messed up." "Oh God," parents murmured angrily. The tide of opinion had flipped completely. Amina had not just defended herself, she had been ambushed, and the boys had framed her. Now the truth hung heavy in the air, undeniable and suffocating. Marcus stepped to Amina's side, placing a steady hand on the back of her wheelchair. Principal Monroe looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. His hands shook. His throat bobbed as he tried to maintain authority. He looked around the room, saw the fear, the guilt, the outrage. Then he inhaled deeply and forced the words out, "We will. Revoke the suspension immediately." He swallowed. "And we will be reviewing the entire disciplinary process, every decision, every protocol." His voice dropped. "This school owes Miss Carter an apology." Every head turned toward Amina. She didn't glare. She didn't smirk. She didn't bask in the reversal. Her expression stayed cold, quiet, composed. A fighter's composure. The bullies broken, their lies exposed. Their parents ashamed. All eyes shifted from the boys to Principal Monroe, waiting, demanding to know what consequences would follow now that the truth had been dragged into the light. With the room on the edge of eruption, Monroe prepared to announce the school's next step just as a new piece of evidence threatened to ignite the final showdown. The large hall emptied slowly after the explosive hearing, but the shockwaves did not. Word spread through Bellington High, faster than any official announcement could. By the time students spilled into the main lobby, the entire school vibrated with whispers, gasps, outrage, and something the varsity Bulls had never felt before: judgment. The double doors swung open. Chad Riker and his crew were escorted out by school security, not handcuffed, but shrunken, pale, and trembling. Their swagger was gone, erased completely, leaving only 4 boys who suddenly looked very small. A crowd formed instantly. Phones rose in every direction. Voices erupted. "Is it true? They attacked her first? They kicked her wheelchair? I can't believe this, monsters. They lied about everything? Expel them." The hallway felt hotter than usual, charged with the heat of collective anger. Principal Monroe stepped forward to address the crowd, his voice amplified over the intercom. "As of this moment," he said, struggling to sound authoritative, "the students involved in the attack on Amina Carter are suspended indefinitely and removed from all athletic programs pending further review and legal consideration." A wave of reactions crashed through the room. Chad's mother covered her mouth, horrified. Logan burst into tears again. Drew dropped onto a bench, shaking violently. Gavin stared at the floor, ghost pale. Then the real bombshell hit. Someone leaked the auxiliary camera footage. All of it. It spread across social media within minutes. The shove, the kick, the encirclement of Amina like prey, the taunts. The first blow aimed directly at her chair. The comments exploded. "Attackers, cowards, disability hate crime? Expel them all. Arrest them." Bellington High's name trended locally, then statewide. By noon, the story had already reached disability rights groups and MMA youth organizations. Students in the hall watched their phones in real time as the world turned against the varsity Bulls. "Bro, this is bad," someone whispered behind the crowd. "They're finished. Gavin's the one who edited the video," another said. "That's tampering with evidence, right? Isn't that a crime?" Gavin's knees buckled. He leaned against the wall, breath shallow. Amina hadn't just won back her name. She had inadvertently revealed the boys' darkest secret, that their cruelty wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. And now the school, the entire school, saw them for what they truly were. Students who once followed them now moved away, as if the boys carried a disease. Athletes who once admired them avoided eye contact. The football captain shoved past Chad in disgust. "You embarrassed the entire program," he spat. "You're off the team for good." Chad didn't argue. He couldn't. His world, the one where he was untouchable, adored, feared, powerful, crumbled in the span of a single morning. Meanwhile, Ellie stood near Miss Turner, cheeks flushed, eyes shining with a mixture of relief and disbelief, as Principal Monroe placed an official commendation letter in her hands. "For courage in presenting critical evidence," Monroe said. "You did the right thing, Miss Nguyen." Students nearby clapped genuine applause that made Ellie blink in shock. She had spent the morning terrified, ignored, dismissed. Now she was a hero. Amina emerged from the conference room with Marcus at her side. The crowd parted silently as she wheeled into the lobby. Students looked at her not with fear, not with pity, but with respect. Real respect. Then she saw them. Chad, Logan, Drew, and Gavin sat slumped across a long stone bench, faces chalk white, eyes swollen, reputations in ashes. Amina didn't slow, didn't speed up. She simply rolled forward with calm precision, passing directly in front of them. The sound in the lobby faded to nothing. You could have heard a heartbeat. Chad lifted his head last, jaw trembling, eyes glassy with something he'd never experienced before. Fear of someone stronger without ever throwing a punch. His voice cracked as he forced out, "You won, right? Is that what you wanted?" He swallowed. "Are you happy now?" Amina turned her head just enough to meet his eyes. Her expression wasn't gloating, wasn't cruel, wasn't triumphant. It was colder than all of that. A calm moral finality. "No," she said softly. "This isn't victory." Chad blinked, confused. "This," Amina said, voice steady as steel, "is consequence." She continued rolling forward as Chad deflated into the bench, the meaning hitting him harder than any punch ever could. The lobby watched in silence as Amina disappeared down the hallway, her father walking beside her like a silent guardian. Behind them, the once mighty varsity Bulls sat broken, not defeated by violence, but undone by truth. Chad lowered his face into his hands as Amina's words echoed through the lobby, the crowd whispering the same realization. This isn't victory. This is the price. As the consequences settle across the campus, Principal Monroe prepares to announce the school's final verdict, a decision that will determine the future of every student involved, and Amina's path forward. The sun hung low over Bellington High, casting long shadows across the front gate, the very place where everything began. The metal bars glimmered softly, washed in the golden light of late afternoon. Students gathered in small clusters, murmuring, reflecting, processing the whirlwind of revelations that had shaken the school to its core. Amina Carter rolled forward through the courtyard with Marcus at her side, Miss Turner just a few steps behind, Ellie jogging to catch up. The energy around them was different now, not tense, not fearful, but reverent. People stepped aside for her, not out of pity, but respect. Principal Monroe approached the group, posture humbled. "Miss Carter," he said, voice quieter than anyone had ever heard it, "the school board has unanimously declared you innocent of all wrongdoing." A small gasp of relief escaped Ellie's lips. Monroe continued, "Furthermore, the district is inviting you to speak at the County Anti-Bullying Summit next month. They believe your experience and your strength can help change how schools handle incidents like these. Amina blinked, caught off guard. Me? Speak? Yes, Monroe said softly. Your story has already changed this school. Marcus rested a steady hand on her shoulder. You earned this. Amina looked up at him, a flicker of doubt in her expression. I didn't fight to become a symbol, she said. I fought because I wanted to stay alive. Marcus nodded, eyes softening. And you fought with truth. That's the hardest way to fight, and the bravest. A hush spread behind them. A group of students, those who had watched the bullying silently, who had shared Gavin's edited video, who had whispered rumors and stepped aside instead of stepping in, gathered hesitantly near the gate. A girl from Amina's English class stepped forward, twisting her hands nervously. Amina, we're sorry, she murmured. We all saw things. But we didn't say anything. Another student nodded. I reposted the video. I shouldn't have. I didn't know the truth, and I didn't bother to find it. One by one, students came forward. Apologies, regret, shame. Amina didn't cry. She never had been the type to show weakness publicly, but her eyes softened, her voice lowering. Thank you, she said simply. Not for apologizing, but for learning. Ellie stepped closer, clutching her commendation letter. You changed the whole school today. Amina shook her head. No, the truth did. She looked toward the gate, the exact spot where her wheelchair had been kicked, where she had struggled to stay balanced, where the boys had laughed and recorded her humiliation. Now the same ground shimmered under sunlight, almost as if inviting her to reclaim it. A breeze brushed against her braids. She placed her hands on the wheels of her chair, paused, then stood slowly, pushing herself upward with controlled strength. Prosthetic leg meeting solid concrete. Gasps rippled through the courtyard, not because she stood, but because of what standing symbolized. Amina looked at the gate, then at the students who had gathered. Her voice rang out clear and resolute. That day, you saw me fall. She took another steady breath. But today, you will see me stand. The courtyard erupted, not with cheers, not with noise, but with a collective exhale, a moment of shared understanding. Amina wasn't rising for glory. She wasn't rising for vengeance. She was rising for herself, and for everyone who had ever been knocked down and told to stay there. Marcus smiled, pride softened by deep relief. You're ready, he said. Amina lowered herself back into her chair, calm and composed. I'm ready, she echoed. Not to fight, but to build something better. Ellie wiped her eyes, trying to hide her smile. Miss Turner placed a gentle hand on Amina's shoulder. As the four of them walked toward the parking lot, the same path Marcus had taken when he first arrived, the students watched with a newfound awareness. The story wasn't ending here. It was just beginning. As the breeze rustled the trees and the campus settled into an uneasy peace, Amina glanced back at the school and whispered, "Change starts here. Expect." The chapter closed, but its meaning echoed through every hallway of Bellington High, sparking conversations, shifting culture, and carving the first cracks in a system long overdue for truth. And that's how a girl who was once pushed down right in front of the school gate became the person who made the entire system stand up and reflect on itself. Amina didn't win with fists, didn't win with strength, but won with truth, with unwavering determination, and with a spirit that never bowed down to injustice. Today's story isn't just about school violence, but also a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the calmness of someone who knows they are right and is willing to stand up for it. So, what about you? Have you ever witnessed an unjust situation where no one dared to speak up? Please share so everyone can read and learn. If this story resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journeys of justice. Thank you for watching to the end, and remember, the truth always finds a way to speak.